Hello guys, welcome to another video of cloud. In this video we are going to discuss about function as a service, that is also called FaaS and serverless computing. We'll be discussing all the important concept about it, use cases, advantages along with some of the real world examples. Let's begin the video. First we'll be just knowing what is function as a service in brief. Okay, this you can also pronounce as FaaS or FaaS service. Okay, this is basically a cloud computing model where developers deploy code in the form of individual functions. Developers just can deploy or use this function as a service model to create their functions and do their task. Okay, FaaS, function as a service, abstracts infrastructure management, allowing automatic scaling based on demand. So this also scales automatically. So you have higher traffic coming in for your function or for your application. Function as a service will automatically scale by itself. Okay, so this provides flexibility to the developers if they don't know anything about infra. Okay, also known as serverless computing because servers are abstracted from the developer's perspective. In this scenario, or you can say function as a service model, developers don't know where my infra is. They just directly go ahead and interact with the application, or you can say the function as a service directly. Okay, so they don't have to manage the infra from their development side. Now let's see how function as a service operates. First, developers will write a small code, stateless function, and deploy their function to the cloud provider or function as a service provider. Okay, functions are triggered by events that can be HTTP request, database changes, or schedule trigger or something like that. Functions will be triggered by them. You can trigger your function based on some HTTP request or any other changes along with the schedule trigger. Cloud provider manages execution, scaling, and resource allocation. The cloud provider which you are using this function as a service model, they will be able to, or they will be managing scaling of the basically you can say function and resource allocation as well. Okay, so that you don't have to worry about the how your function or how your function as a service is running. You just have to use that. Okay, now let's discuss. You might be saying like what is the difference between function as a service and platform as a service then? Even in platform as a service we get the same thing, like we get a platform where we can create the application or create the PaaS service and we can basically use them. So what is the difference between function as a service and platform as a service? Okay, see here, in case of function as a service, this is event driven model triggered by specific events. Okay, this is event driven. You can trigger it based on something like based on your HTTP request or a database trigger or something like this. You pay only for the function runs in function as a service. You don't have to pay for the full PaaS resource like platform as a service resource. You just pay only when your function is executed. Okay, this is stateless and designed for short tasks. This is stateless and states are not stored in function as a service. And this basically people or organization use for some short task. Like if they want to create some incident in the service now for their alerts, they can use this function as a service to do the same. Okay, this scales automatically. Automating scaling function is enabled in function as a service. Okay, now let's see how platform as a service is different from the function as a service. In the platform as a service, you can deploy full applications including the background process as well, so that a background process will be running and every time your application will be up. Okay, pay for continuous usage. When you created a platform as a service resource, you'll have to pay continuously, either that is running or you are using that or not. But in case of function as a service, we saw, right, we you just pay only when your function is executed. But in case of platform as a service, you'll have to pay for your continuous usage. Okay, this can be stateful with longer running services as well. You can store the state of your PaaS service, and you can use this for longer running services or complex tasks as well. Okay. In case of PaaS service, some infrastructure management is required. You will have to create, for example, app service plan in Azure to support this PaaS service. Now let's go ahead and compare function as a service with traditional server-based architecture. Okay, what is the advantages we get as compared to traditional server-based architecture in the function as a service? In function as a service, this code executes in response to events. No manual server management. Okay, you don't have to manage anything manually either in the server side. You can just run this. In this you can execute the codes whenever your function is triggered, or whenever some event has been occurred, then your function as a service or function will automatically be triggered. You don't have to do anything much. Okay, but in case of traditional server based architecture, developers manage infrastructure including server, storage, scaling, and everything. In traditional approach, you'll have to manage from scratch to end. Okay, you'll have to create the infrastructure, you'll have to keep them in your data center, you'll have to create the servers, you'll have to create storage for your application to run, and you'll have to do scaling as well whenever you want to do, or whenever your traffic increases for your application. So these all things you will have to manage by yourself. But in case of function as a service, you don't have to manage everything. All the things will be managed automatically by your provider, and you will have to just execute your code whenever your or an event is occurred. Okay. Now let's see why we need to choose function as a service. In this model, no infrastructure management. So cloud providers will handle all the things, all the infra part like server setup and all. You don't have to manage any infra. You don't have to worry about the patching or security and anything like that, because everything managed by the cloud provider. This is cost efficient because you pay only for the time function has been running. Okay, you don't need to pay for your, I mean, function as a service resource for all the time whenever function ran or function completed. For that run only you will have to pay. So this is also the cost efficient. You can achieve automatic scalability using the function as a service. This scale based on event traffic. If your traffic is high, it will scale up, and if your traffic is low, it will scale down as well by default. Okay, this provides faster development as well because you just focus on writing code, no, not managing the infra. You just have to write the code, or if you are a developer, you just write the code. You don't need to manage the infra. So this will enable faster development as well, along with faster release. Okay. Now let's see what are the common use cases for function as a service. We can use this as API backends to automatically execute function in response to API request. Whenever any or someone API request has made, you can use this function as a service model in your API backend, so that your API backend will automatically respond to this API request based on the event trigger. Real-time data processing. Process streaming data in real time. In this scenario, you can use this function as a service as well. For IoT application, you can use this trigger functions based on IoT device events. For file processing, automate the processing of uploaded files, example image resizing. So all these type of tasks you can achieve with function as a service. You can do this, or you can use this for automation task as well, run scheduled task or workflow triggered by specific events. So these are some of the common use cases generally we use function as a service for. What are the function as a service providers? You might be familiar with all these names. This is AWS Lambda and this is provided by Amazon Web Services. This is, you can say, the serverless or you can say the function as a service. You can use AWS Lambda to deploy your application, to create your application in that and run it. You don't have to worry about the infra and all. That's why this is also called serverless. The second one is Azure Functions. This is provided by Microsoft Azure. You can use this again to achieve the same thing. Serverless computing, you just create the function and you can deploy your function inside that so that it will automatically work by itself. You don't need to create the infra or any infra component by yourself. Many others are there like Google Cloud Function, IBM Cloud Functions, and Cloudflare Workers on all these type of tools. Okay, these all serve the same purpose of function as a service or you can say serverless computing. Let's talk about real world examples of function as a service. The first one is the Netflix. This uses AWS Lambda for backups and security checks. Coca-Cola Azure Functions. Coca-Cola uses Azure Functions to manage vending machine operations. Okay, so these are some of the real world examples. You can take this example as well, the New York Times. This uses Google Cloud Functions for personalized news content. So in these scenarios, you can also use this function as a service or serverless computing. Okay. Now we discussed everything. We discussed the advantages and all. Let's discuss the challenges if you can face while using function as a service or serverless computing. Okay, generally this start or this works with cold start. This will delay when invoking a function after inactivity. Suppose your session was inactive for some time or your function as a service resource was inactive for some time and you deploy or you invoked that function, then it will take some time because that was inactive. Okay, so this is one of the challenges with function as a service. Next one is limited execution time. Function typically have time limits. Generally, we get time limits of 15 minutes, 20 minutes, depend on the cloud provider. Complex debugging. Debugging and testing can be difficult because you just manage the application and not the infrastructure. Vendor locking. Migrating between providers can be challenging. So suppose you want to migrate your function as a service from this provider to someone else. This will be very difficult to migrate in. Let's discuss what are the best practices we should be following when using the function as a service. Keep function stateless and small. Make sure you are keeping the function stateless and small so that your function will be running smoothly. You should not use function as a service for high performing task or stateful task. Okay, optimize for cold start by reducing dependency. So this work or this you can say like function as a service works as cold start. You need to reduce dependencies on it so that you can optimize it. Monitor and log function performance by troubleshooting. You can use monitoring tools in Azure like Application Insight and Log Analytics Workspace to monitor and log function performance for troubleshooting. You can go ahead and check all the logs in that Application Insight or Log Analytics Workspace for your debugging or troubleshooting issues for your function as a service. This combines function as a service with other cloud services for a complex solution. Okay, you can use the function as a service model with different cloud services by your cloud provider for a complete solution. You can basically integrate this with other cloud services by your provider. Function as a service is a game changer for event driven scalable application. You can use this whenever your requirement is to trigger it when some event has occurred or you need some scalable applications. Offers great advantages like reduced cost and faster time to market. Like I already said, since you are paying for the function execution count, you don't not need to worry about the cost, and whenever you are not using the function app, you will not occur any cost. And because of this, this also enables faster time to market. Okay, you can release and develop your application easily and early so that you can deploy to the end users as quickly as possible. Okay, you need to consider limitations and best practices before adopting function as a service model. You can check the limitations like cold start and other things, and you can also refer the best practices which we discussed before you adopt this function as a service. Else, you can create your own infra, or even you can use some platform as a service model as well, so that you don't get any issues while running the application. That's it from this video. If you have any questions or comments, please let me know in the comment section. If you liked this video, please like and subscribe my channel. Thanks for watching.